You can have my entire planet if you tame this predator, the Empress chuckled, and then the man. The sky above was a strange shade of greenish-blue, and three suns glimmered in the distance, casting long shadows across the rolling hills. He had visited many planets before, but none like this. Everything here seemed alive in a way humans were not used to. Ethan adjusted his backpack and looked around. Towering trees with thick, twisting branches surrounded him. Strange vines hung down like ropes and bright, glowing insects flew lazily in the air. He could hear birds, if they were birds, singing in strange harmonies. But the sounds were mixed with deeper noises, low growls, rumbles from the ground, and the snap of twigs in the distance. Something lived in these woods, and it was not small. A voice crackled in his ear through the communicator. "Colonel Carter, the Empress is waiting. Please proceed to the palace immediately." It was Clara, a young scout assigned to guide him. Ethan had not met her in person yet, but her voice was steady, confident, and calm. He followed the path Clara had indicated, moving carefully over roots and rocks. The path led through a jungle that seemed almost too thick to walk through. He saw enormous footprints pressed into the soft soil. The prints were at least 3 times the size of his own boots, and the claws looked sharp. He stopped for a moment, studying them. "This is the creature I have to face," he muttered to himself, "and I'm expected to tame it." The jungle opened into a clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a palace, but it was not made of metal or stone like humans usually built. It looked alive. The walls glimmered like the surface of a bubble, shifting colors in the sunlight. Strange plants grew around the structure, curling over its sides like natural decorations. Ethan felt a thrill in his chest. This was not just a palace, it was alive. 2 guards stepped forward as Ethan approached. They were tall and thin, with greenish skin and large eyes. They wore simple armor, almost like it was made from hardened leaves and bark. One of them spoke in a low voice, which Clara translated instantly in his ear. "The Empress welcomes you, human. Step inside." Ethan nodded and followed them through the doors. The inside of the palace was brighter than he expected. The walls glowed softly, and the floor was smooth but warm, as if the building itself was breathing. He could hear a faint humming, almost like music, but it was not from any instrument. It filled the room and made him feel alert and alive. At the far end of the room, sitting on a high chair that seemed grown from the same material as the walls, was Empress Leora. She was taller than any human, with sharp, elegant features and hair that shimmered like liquid silver. Her eyes were dark, and she studied Ethan with a calm but unreadable expression. "You are Colonel Ethan Carter," she said, her voice soft but carrying power. "I have heard of your skills. Humans are said to be clever, but I did not expect one of your kind to appear here willingly." "I was told you needed someone to help with a problem," Ethan replied, keeping his voice steady. "I am here to see what I can do." The Empress smiled. It was a small, playful curve of her lips. "A problem is one way to put it, but it is more a challenge. Zithra is not a planet for the weak or careless. The apex predator of this world, the Rinthar, has never been tamed. Many have tried and many have failed." Ethan took a deep breath. He had read about dangerous creatures before, but the stories made them sound almost mythical. "And you want me to tame it?" Leora leaned forward slightly, resting her chin on one hand. "Yes. If you can tame the Rinthar, I will give you full stewardship of Zithra. Its resources, its lands, and its secrets will be yours. Do you understand what that means?" Ethan's mind raced. Stewardship of a whole planet. That was more than any human had ever owned or controlled. But it was not a simple reward. The challenge itself was deadly. Many skilled aliens had come here, armed and dangerous, and none had succeeded. Most did not even return. "I understand," Ethan said finally. "I will try." The Empress chuckled softly, a sound that was both pleasant and dangerous. "Very well, but know this, human. The Rinthar does not respond to threats, weapons, or force. Brute strength alone will not help you. Many who came here thought they could dominate it. They failed. Ethan nodded, his determination firm. Then I will need to observe it, learn its habits, and find another way. That is the human way, Leora said, almost approvingly. Clever, resourceful, patient. Let us see if it is enough. She waved a hand and a holographic map appeared in the air. It showed the territory of the Rinthar, a vast stretch of jungle, mountains, and rivers. It lives here. You will need to travel alone at first. Take care, for the Rinthar is not just a beast, it is the master of its domain. Clara approached Ethan and handed him a small pack. Food, tools, and communication devices, she explained. You can call for me if you need guidance, but you must not interfere with the Rinthar directly until it accepts you. Remember, it senses fear and aggression first. Move carefully, and it may respect you. Ethan accepted the pack and slung it over his shoulder. Thank you, Clara. I will be careful. The Empress rose from her chair, her presence commanding the entire room. Remember, Colonel Carter, many have come before you and many have fallen. Humans are clever, yes, but Zithra does not forgive mistakes easily. Tame the Rinthar and the planet is yours. Fail, and you may not return to your kind. Ethan swallowed hard but did not show fear. I understand, he said again. He wanted to impress upon her that humans were capable of thinking differently than aliens. Humans could use empathy, creativity, and patience in ways that brute force could not match. He left the palace with Clara and stepped back onto the soft ground outside. The jungle seemed more alive now than before, as if it knew a human had entered its heart. He began walking toward the area marked on the map, noting the strange plants, the colorful birds, and the distant rumbles from deeper in the forest. Every step reminded him how careful he had to be. As he moved deeper into the jungle, Ethan observed small predators and insects, recording their behavior. Even the smallest creatures seemed to have intelligence beyond what he had seen on other planets. He realized that the Rinthar was not alone in its mastery. The entire ecosystem was in balance, dangerous but perfectly adapted to survive. Hours passed as he traveled. He set small traps, not to catch animals, but to test their intelligence and reactions. Each observation gave him more insight. The jungle was teaching him as much as he was learning. At dusk, Ethan stopped to rest near a small stream. The water was clear and warm, reflecting the strange light of Zithra's suns. He took a sip and felt a calmness settle over him. For the first time, he felt connected to the planet, not as a conqueror, but as a guest learning the rules of an alien world. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the trees. Ethan froze. The sound was deep, resonant, and filled with power. The Rinthar was near. He stayed very still, letting the noise wash over him. His heart raced, but he forced himself to remain calm. Clara's voice came through the communicator. Do not run. Do not make sudden movements. The Rinthar is aware of you. It is testing you. Ethan nodded silently, though she could not see him. He crouched low, lowering his profile. The sound came again, closer this time, and he could feel the ground vibrate with each step of the creature. A shadow moved across the path ahead. Ethan held his breath, catching a glimpse of massive scales glinting in the fading light. The creature's head rose above the trees for a moment, revealing eyes that glowed like molten gold. Then, with a final, earth-shaking roar, it disappeared into the jungle. Ethan exhaled slowly. This was it, the first real encounter. The Rinthar had acknowledged his presence and it was testing him. He knew he could not approach it recklessly. Every movement, every decision from now on would matter. He set up a small camp for the night, careful to choose a safe clearing and placing sensors around it. As he lay under the alien stars, Ethan reflected on what the Empress had said. Many had failed because they had tried to dominate, to force the predator into submission. Humans had a different way. If he could understand the creature, communicate without weapons, and show courage without aggression, perhaps he could succeed. Ethan closed his eyes and listened to the jungle sounds. He could hear the low growls, the movement of unseen creatures, and the distant roar of the Rinthar. Despite the danger, he felt excitement, a spark of hope. Humans had always been underestimated in the galaxy, and here, on this wild, untamed world, he had the chance to prove why. Sleep came slowly, as he imagined the first real meeting with the Rinthar. Tomorrow would be the beginning of a journey that no human had ever attempted. He would face the apex predator of Zithra, and if he succeeded, he would claim not just a creature, but a planet, and in doing so, show the galaxy what humanity could do when cleverness, courage, and patience worked together. Ethan Carter was ready. Ethan Carter moved slowly through the dense forest. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and unknown plants. Every step he took was careful, measured. He knew the Rinthar was close. The giant predator had been watching him for hours, maybe even longer, and now it was time for their first real encounter. The trees around him shook slightly, as if the jungle itself was alive with anticipation. Ethan could hear the faint rustle of leaves and the snapping of small branches under enormous weight. His heart beat faster, but he forced himself to stay calm. Fear could be sensed, and fear could cost him his life. He reached a small clearing where the ground was soft and covered with thick moss. Sunlight from the three suns filtered through the canopy in green-gold beams. Ethan knelt for a moment and checked the devices he had placed earlier. They were simple sensors to monitor the creature's movements, nothing aggressive. He did not want to scare the Rinthar. Then he saw it. A shadow moved just beyond the clearing. It was massive, much larger than he had imagined from the tracks he had studied. The Rinthar stepped into the light and Ethan froze. Its scales shimmered with a dark metallic green, and muscles rippled under its thick skin. The predator's eyes were golden and intelligent, watching him carefully. Ethan took a deep breath and lowered himself to one knee. He did not reach for his equipment or any weapon. He wanted to show the Rinthar that he came in peace. The creature sniffed the air and tilted its head, curious but cautious. "Easy, easy," Ethan whispered. "I'm not here to hurt you." The Rinthar stepped closer, each movement deliberate and powerful. Ethan noticed its claws were like daggers, but it did not strike. Instead, it circled him slowly, testing, observing. Its eyes locked onto his, and he felt a strange connection, as if the creature was trying to understand him just as he was trying to understand it. Clara's voice came softly in his communicator. "Colonel, stay calm. Let it approach. Do not move too quickly." Ethan nodded even though she could not see him. He held his hands open, showing no weapons. Slowly, he moved one hand toward the ground, letting the Rinthar see that he meant no harm. The creature sniffed at his hand but kept its distance. Hours passed as the two studied each other. Ethan spoke softly, describing who he was and why he had come. The Rinthar responded with small growls and body movements, subtle signals Ethan tried to interpret. Every twitch of the tail, every movement of the head told him something about the predator's mood. By midday, the Rinthar had come closer than ever. It was still cautious, but it did not flee. Ethan's patience seemed to be working. He carefully extended a small piece of meat he had prepared. The Rinthar sniffed it, then stepped back. It was testing him, seeing if he would make sudden moves. Ethan remained calm and motionless. After a tense moment, the creature lowered its head and took the meat gently. Ethan allowed himself a small smile. It was a breakthrough. The Rinthar was beginning to trust him, even slightly. He knew the next steps would require careful observation. The predator was smart. It could see lies and tricks. Ethan had to be genuine in his approach. Over the next few days, Ethan spent nearly all his time in the Rinthar's territory. He learned its patterns, where it hunted, where it drank, and where it rested. Each day, he offered small gestures of trust, placing food at a distance, mimicking its movements, speaking softly. The creature began to respond with curiosity rather than aggression. One afternoon, Ethan noticed something unusual. The Rinthar had a small wound on one of its front legs. It did not seem serious, but it hindered its movement. Most humans would have thought to avoid it, seeing it as dangerous, but Ethan saw an opportunity to connect further. Carefully, he approached the creature, speaking soothing words. The Rinthar tensed but did not run. Ethan knelt and slowly examined the wound. He cleaned it using tools and herbs he had carried, always watching the predator's reactions. The Rinthar growled low in its throat, but it did not attack. Instead, it allowed him to work. Ethan realized that his patience and care were creating trust. After tending the wound, he stepped back and watched. The Rinthar sniffed at him, then gave a small, low rumble. It was not a roar, not a threat, but something close to acknowledgement. Ethan felt a thrill of hope. Night fell, and the jungle glowed under the light of Zithra's 3 moons. Ethan set up his camp near the Rinthar's resting area but kept a safe distance. He reflected on what had happened. He was learning that brute strength was useless here. The galaxy's strongest warriors had failed because they tried to force the Rinthar into submission. Humans had a different approach: patience, observation, and empathy. The next morning, Ethan continued his work. He followed the Rinthar at a distance, mapping its territory and noting its behaviors. Occasionally, he left small items for it: stones, pieces of food, or objects that made gentle sounds. The creature seemed to investigate these offerings, learning to recognize Ethan as a presence that brought neither harm nor threat. Clara's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Colonel, you are doing better than I expected. Most species would not allow anyone near the Rinthar without attacking. You have a rare gift. Humans can connect in ways others cannot." Ethan smiled. "It is not a gift, it is understanding. If we respect creatures instead of trying to dominate them, we can achieve things no one expects." Clara laughed softly. "You may be right. The Empress will be very curious to see your progress." By the 5th day, Ethan and the Rinthar had a routine. He would sit quietly while it hunted nearby, never intruding but always observing. Occasionally, the predator would come closer, sniff at him, and then return to its business. Trust was slowly building. One evening, as Ethan watched the Rinthar from a hidden spot, he noticed it watching him in return. Its eyes were bright and intelligent, and he felt as if the creature was thinking, learning about him as he had about it. He realized that this predator was not just dangerous, it was wise, proud, and aware. To tame it would not be to break it, but to earn its respect. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the trees. Ethan jumped to his feet. The Rinthar growled and charged toward the sound. Ethan ran to follow, keeping a safe distance. He saw a smaller predator attacking the Rinthar, trying to steal its food. The 2 beasts clashed, claws and teeth flashing. Ethan stayed back, knowing he could not intervene physically. But then he noticed something. The Rinthar was using strategy. It was not fighting blindly, it was circling, using the terrain, and adapting to the smaller predator's moves. Ethan realized that humans and Rinthar shared a similar kind of intelligence. Both species could plan, observe, and adapt. After a tense moment, the smaller predator fled. The Rinthar roared, shaking the ground, and then turned to look at Ethan. Its eyes were calm, almost approving. Ethan felt a deep connection at that moment. The Rinthar had acknowledged him, not as a threat, not as prey, but as an intelligent being worthy of notice. Days turned into weeks. Ethan's bond with the Rinthar grew stronger. He no longer feared it, and it no longer feared him. He could approach it without provoking aggression, and the creature even allowed him to feed it and check minor injuries. Their connection became a silent conversation, full of gestures, glances, and understanding. One afternoon, Ethan noticed the Rinthar leading him to a hidden cave. Inside, he saw the predator's hoard, items it had collected: bones, shiny stones, and even small pieces of technology from past intruders. The Rinthar showed him the treasures but allowed Ethan to touch them. It was a sign of trust, a gesture that no other human or alien had ever received. Clara's voice crackled in his communicator. "Colonel, this is incredible. You have reached a level of trust no one thought possible. The Empress will be amazed." Ethan smiled. "It is more than trust. It is respect. That is what humans do. They respect life, even when it is dangerous." That night, Ethan sat near the Rinthar and spoke softly to it, recounting stories of Earth, of humans, and of his journey. The creature listened, tilting its massive head, its eyes glowing in the moonlight. For the first time, it seemed to respond with more than curiosity. There was recognition, a bond forming that went beyond fear or hunger. Ethan knew he had reached a turning point. The Rinthar was no longer just a predator. It was a companion in understanding, a creature that could see the intelligence in a human mind. He realized that humans were underestimated across the galaxy because other species could not imagine the combination of patience, courage, and empathy. Tomorrow, he would try something new. He would approach the Rinthar closer than ever before, hoping to touch it and show complete trust. It was dangerous, but he had learned enough to know the creature would not attack without reason. The bond had grown too strong for that. As he lay under the alien stars, Ethan felt a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. The Rinthar was no longer untamed. It was learning him, just as he was learning it. And in this strange, wild world, he felt the first real signs of victory. Ethan Carter, a human among the stars, was showing once again that humanity's strength was not in weapons, but in intelligence, courage, and heart. The first true encounter had been survived, and the next steps would bring them even closer, testing the limits of trust and understanding. He closed his eyes, ready for the challenges of tomorrow, knowing that the apex predator of Zithra was beginning to see him not as an enemy, but as a partner. The morning light of Zithra filtered softly through the dense jungle canopy. Ethan Carter woke to the quiet hum of the forest. Birds or creatures that looked like birds chirped in a slow, almost melodic rhythm, and the air smelled damp, earthy, and alive. He stretched, feeling the soft moss beneath him, and remembered the Rinthar resting not far away. The bond between him and the creature had grown. What had started as cautious curiosity was now a connection built on trust and patience. He had learned to read the predator's body language, the tilt of its head, the twitch of its tail, the rumble deep in its chest. Each gesture told a story, and Ethan knew that today their bond would face its first true test. Clara's voice came gently through the communicator. "Colonel, I have detected unusual activity in your area. Something is approaching the territory. You should be careful." Ethan nodded, though she could not see him. "I understand. I'll watch closely." He packed his small supplies carefully, making sure not to make any sudden noise. The Rinthar stirred as he moved, its glowing eyes tracking his every motion. Ethan spoke softly. "We may have visitors, but don't worry. I'm here with you." Together, they moved through the dense jungle. Ethan followed behind, letting the predator lead. Its sense of the forest was unmatched. It moved with the precision of a creature perfectly adapted to the world. Ethan's eyes were open to every detail, every shadow, every sound. He had learned that on Zithra, survival depended on understanding the environment as much as understanding the creatures that lived in it. Hours passed, and the Rinthar's presence gave him courage. Then suddenly, the ground shook with a thunderous force. Ethan dropped to the ground, hiding behind a tree, and saw a group of alien warriors stepping into the clearing. They were heavily armored and carried strange weapons that hummed with energy. Their leader raised a hand and shouted something in a language Ethan did not understand. The Rinthar growled low in its throat, a warning to the intruders. Ethan watched carefully. The warriors did not seem afraid. They were confident, but they had not seen what humans could do. Ethan moved quietly to a safe position. He studied the warriors' behavior, noting their weaknesses and patterns. The Rinthar stayed close to him, ready to act, but it waited for his signal. Ethan realized that their bond had reached a level where he could guide the creature, and it would follow. The lead warrior stepped forward, scanning the area. Ethan's heart beat faster, but he focused. He remembered the Empress's words. Humans were clever, not just strong. He reached into his pack and pulled out small devices that emitted soft sounds and lights. He arranged them to create distractions and pathways, leading the warriors' attention away from himself and the Rinthar. The Rinthar moved silently beside him, using the shadows and terrain to its advantage. When the first warrior approached too close, the predator roared, shaking the ground and sending a wave of fear through the intruders. The humans, or aliens, had no chance to understand what hit them. They were not just facing a predator, they were facing a coordinated mind that used intelligence and strategy. Ethan stayed calm, giving signals with subtle movements. The Rinthar responded perfectly, blocking paths, cutting off access, and using its massive strength without unnecessary violence. Ethan realized that this was a perfect demonstration of what humans could do, not rely on brute force alone, but combine thought, patience, and creativity to control even the most dangerous situations. The alien warriors retreated, confused and intimidated. They had never faced an opponent like this. The Rinthar let out a victorious roar, but it did not attack the fleeing enemies further. It had learned from Ethan that restraint and judgment were just as powerful as strength. After the danger passed, Ethan knelt beside the predator. "Good work," he said softly. "You are amazing." The Rinthar rumbled, nuzzling his shoulder slightly, a gesture of trust and acknowledgement. Ethan smiled. He felt proud, but he also knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would watch humans and Zithra with interest after what had just happened. As the sun moved higher, Ethan explored deeper into the jungle with the Rinthar at his side. He noticed signs of other predators and traps left by previous explorers. He realized that many had tried to capture or kill the Rinthar and most had failed. Their arrogance and lack of understanding had been their downfall. Humans, however, had a different approach. They observed first, acted second, and respected life in all its forms. By late afternoon, Ethan found a natural arena, a wide clearing surrounded by cliffs and thick vegetation. He decided it was time for a new test, to approach the Rinthar closer than ever before and show complete trust. The creature had been allowing him near for days, but today he wanted to push the bond further. He moved slowly, keeping his hands visible and speaking softly. The Rinthar watched carefully, its golden eyes gleaming with curiosity. Ethan knelt, extended a hand, and waited. The predator sniffed him, testing for aggression or trickery. After a tense moment, it lowered its massive head and allowed Ethan to touch its scales. The texture was rough but surprisingly warm. Ethan's heart raced with excitement. He had never felt such a connection with any creature before. The Rinthar moved its head slightly, nuzzling him, as if acknowledging a partnership. This moment was more than trust, it was respect. Humans had never failed to earn it, and now Ethan had succeeded. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the ground. Ethan looked up and saw a group of hostile creatures emerging from the jungle. They were massive, stronger, and more dangerous than anything he had seen so far. The Rinthar tensed, growling low in warning. Ethan knew they could not fight them directly. Strategy and intelligence would be their only weapons. He quickly analyzed the terrain. There were rocks, trees, and narrow paths that could slow the enemy down. He gave subtle signals to the Rinthar, which moved instantly, taking the lead and using its massive size to control the battlefield. Ethan placed traps and guided the creature, ensuring that the hostile predators were confused and separated. The battle was intense, but Ethan's calm mind and the Rinthar's raw power worked together perfectly. They moved as one, predicting each other's actions, avoiding danger and responding with precision. The predators were strong, but they lacked the understanding and coordination that humans and the Rinthar shared. By nightfall, the intruders had been driven off. Ethan stood, exhausted but victorious, next to the Rinthar. The creature's chest heaved and it rumbled deeply, a sound that spoke of pride and satisfaction. Ethan patted its side gently. "We did it," he said. "Together." Clara's voice came through the communicator. "Colonel, the Empress will want to hear about this. You have proven not just trust, but intelligence and bravery. Humans are truly remarkable." Ethan smiled. "It is not just me, it is us, humanity and the Rinthar. We understand each other." As he settled down for the night, he reflected on what had happened. The bond with the Rinthar had been tested under pressure, in real danger, and it had held strong. He realized that this was what humans could offer the galaxy, the ability to work with intelligence, courage, and heart, even in situations that seemed impossible. The Rinthar lay beside him, relaxed and alert at the same time. Ethan felt a deep sense of accomplishment and purpose. He knew that soon, the Empress would witness the results firsthand, and the galaxy would have to reconsider its assumptions about humans. Tomorrow would be the final stage of their journey together. Ethan planned to demonstrate the full strength of their bond, showing not only that he could tame the Rinthar, but that humans could inspire loyalty, courage, and respect, even in the most dangerous creatures. For now, though, he closed his eyes under the alien sky, listening to the quiet hum of the jungle, the rustle of leaves, and the soft breathing of the predator beside him. They had survived the first true test, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Ethan Carter had proven something important. Strength alone was not enough. Understanding, patience, and courage could achieve what brute force never could. And with the Rinthar at his side, he felt unstoppable. The apex predator of Zithra was no longer a threat, it was an ally. And together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, showing the galaxy the power of human ingenuity and heart. The morning on Zithra was quiet, almost peaceful, but Ethan Carter knew today would be different. Today would be the day he faced the final challenge, the moment when the galaxy would see what humans could achieve. The Rinthar stirred nearby, its massive body moving gracefully through the soft moss. Ethan watched it with admiration. They had grown close, and he trusted the creature completely. Clara's voice came softly in his communicator. "Colonel, the Empress is on her way. She wants to see the full bond between you and the Rinthar. This is your chance to prove humanity's strength in a way no one has ever done." Ethan nodded, even though she could not see him. He had been preparing for this moment for weeks, learning the Rinthar's behaviors, understanding its moods, and forming a partnership built on trust and respect. He knew that today would not be about brute strength or weapons. Today would be about intelligence, patience, and heart, the qualities that made humans extraordinary. He and the Rinthar moved toward a large clearing. The area was surrounded by cliffs and thick jungle, a natural arena where nothing could interfere with their demonstration. Ethan set small markers on the ground, signaling points of interest for the Rinthar. The predator followed his subtle gestures, understanding exactly what he meant. They moved together in perfect synchronization, showing the bond that had taken weeks to build. A low hum filled the air as the Empress arrived. She did not come alone. Several advisors and other alien observers followed her. Their expressions were skeptical, some even mocking. They had seen humans before and dismissed them as weak, incapable of handling creatures or challenges like the Rinthar. Ethan knew their doubts would make the final demonstration even more important. Ethan approached the center of the clearing and spoke softly to the Rinthar. "This is the moment," he whispered. "Show them who we are." The Rinthar rumbled in response, a deep sound that shook the ground slightly. Its golden eyes focused on Ethan, then on the Empress and her entourage. It was ready. The Empress spoke first. "Colonel Carter, you have learned much about the Rinthar, but now it is time to see if you can truly control the situation. Can a human command respect without using fear or weapons?" Ethan nodded. "I believe respect is earned, not demanded. Watch closely." He held up his hands, open and empty. The Rinthar stepped forward calmly, moving without aggression but with authority. It circled him, then paused, looking toward the Empress. Ethan spoke softly, describing the journey they had taken together, the observations, the patience, and the trust they had built. The other aliens watched closely. Many had never seen a human interact with a creature like the Rinthar in this way. The predator's size and power were undeniable, yet it moved with restraint, following Ethan's guidance without hesitation. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the jungle. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He saw a massive rival predator approaching, likely drawn by the commotion. The alien observers gasped. They expected chaos, a battle that would end in destruction. But Ethan remained calm. He signaled subtly to the Rinthar, and the predator responded instantly. Using its knowledge of the terrain, it positioned itself between Ethan and the rival, blocking any attack. Ethan guided it with small gestures, directing the creature without fear. The rival predator tested them, circling and growling, but the Rinthar did not attack blindly. It moved strategically, using its size and strength to protect Ethan while avoiding unnecessary conflict. The humans in the audience, if any were watching, would have recognized the same qualities: intelligence, courage, and careful planning. After several tense moments, the rival retreated, sensing that the Rinthar was not just strong but also clever. Ethan's calm mind and guidance had allowed the predator to dominate the situation without violence. The Empress watched intently, her expression unreadable but her eyes sharp. Ethan knelt beside the Rinthar and placed a hand gently on its scales. "We did it," he whispered. The predator rumbled softly in acknowledgement, nuzzling him slightly. It was a bond stronger than fear or hunger. It was respect, understanding, and loyalty. The Empress stepped forward, her eyes fixed on them. "Colonel Carter," she said slowly, "you have done what no other being in the galaxy could. You have tamed the untamable, not with weapons but with patience, intelligence, and courage. You have proven that humans are capable of achieving what others cannot even imagine." Ethan stood, bowing slightly. "Thank you, Empress. I did not tame the Rinthar by force. I worked with it. Humans are capable of seeing the value in trust, respect, and understanding. Strength is not always physical. It can be mental, emotional, and moral." The alien observers murmured among themselves. Some looked surprised, others impressed. It was clear that they had underestimated humans. Many had dismissed the species as weak, primitive, or incapable of handling serious challenges. Today, that view had been shattered. Leora smiled, her silver hair catching the sunlight. "Then it is as I promised. Zithera is yours, Colonel Carter. Stewardship of this planet, its resources, and its secrets is now in your hands. You have earned it." Ethan's mind raced. This was more than a reward, it was proof. Proof that humans could rise above expectations, that intelligence and heart could triumph where brute force failed. He glanced at the Rinthar, who watched him calmly, a silent partner in this victory. He turned back to the Empress. "I accept the responsibility," he said. "Zithera will be protected and cared for. I will not act recklessly or selfishly. The Rinthar and the creatures of this planet will be respected." Leora nodded. "Good. That is why you succeeded where others failed. Humans are often underestimated because others cannot see their combination of courage and cleverness. Today, you have shown it clearly." Clara approached Ethan, smiling. "Colonel, you did it. You've shown the galaxy what humans can do." Ethan looked at her and then at the Rinthar. "We did it," he said. "Together." The Empress gestured for Ethan to follow her to a private area of the palace. There, she explained Zithera's resources, its ecosystems, and the hidden technologies that previous explorers had missed. Ethan listened carefully, already planning how to protect and manage the planet. He realized that humans were not just survivors. They were problem solvers, capable of understanding complexity in ways other species often could not. In the following days, Ethan established his stewardship. He worked closely with the Rinthar, using it as a partner to navigate Zithra's jungle and ensure balance. The Predator helped him locate dangerous zones, track resources, and even communicate subtle warnings about other creatures. Together, they became an unstoppable team. Word of Ethan's success spread across the galaxy. Other species who had once dismissed humans as weak now spoke in hushed tones of the human who had tamed the untamable. Stories of bravery, intelligence, and respect traveled quickly. Humans were no longer seen as primitive. They were respected, admired, and even feared in the right way. Ethan took a moment one evening to reflect. He sat on a cliff overlooking the jungle, the Rinthar beside him, and the sun setting in brilliant colors. The Predator nuzzled him gently, a gesture of friendship and trust. Ethan smiled. Humanity had faced the galaxy's doubts and proven itself, not through war or conquest, but through understanding, patience, and courage. He thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, and of the galaxy that had once doubted them. They would hear of this achievement. They would see that humans were capable of rising to any challenge, even in worlds filled with danger and unknown threats. That night under the alien stars, Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The Rinthar lay quietly beside him, breathing softly. Zithra was safe, and humans had proven their value once again. It was not strength alone that defined a species. It was intelligence, heart, and the ability to work together. Ethan Carter, a human among the stars, had accomplished the impossible. He had tamed the Rinthar, earned the respect of the galaxy's most feared predator, and shown that humanity's true strength was in its courage, creativity, and understanding. And as he looked out over the vast jungle, he knew that this was only the beginning. Humans would continue to explore, learn, and rise, showing the galaxy the power of heart, mind, and spirit combined. The apex predator of Zithra was no longer untamed. Humans had earned respect where others had failed, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. Ethan closed his eyes under the glow of the three moons, feeling the quiet rumble of the Rinthar beside him. For the first time, he felt completely at peace, knowing that humans could face the unknown and succeed, not by destroying it, but by understanding it. The jungle hummed around him, alive and thriving, and Ethan smiled. Humanity had proven its worth. Zithra was theirs, not by force but by trust, courage, and heart, and the galaxy would remember.